Good morning, everybody. I'd like to quickly discuss my ALZM trade. I'm not sure what type of teacher I would be if I only discussed my winners. As it is, this is my first loss in the month of March. I thought I had a good technical breakout on my hands, and I didn't. I timed it wrong, but that's the bet you make when you take a position in a stock. For those of you who just joined my newsletter, welcome. For those of you who have been with me for quite some time, you know that I successfully traded ALZM twice during this run-up. This is a 30-day chart. I believe my initial buy was back down here in the $1.09 range. Now, what drives me nuts, a little off topic here, but what drives me nuts about a lot of the free newsletters out there is that they claim the first time they talk about a stock to the highest point the stock eventually makes as their call. So in this case, if I were a bastard, if you will, I could easily say that I called 150% runner on ALZM. I'm not so sure that that would be fair, because I traded it from $1.09 to $1.29. What these free newsletters who aren't really traders don't take into consideration that it's different when you're actually in the trade and it's your money on the line. It's easy for anybody to say, oh, I told you about ALZM at 109 and look, it hit 250. But who actually, times it that well? So I'm trying to put my money where my mouth is, and I think, or I hope you guys respect that. And I happen to time this one poorly. I had won on it twice already. I thought I was going to win on it a third time, and here's what happened. Okay, here's how this played out. I put a lot of thought into all of my trades. I value my money dearly, so I'm not happy with how this turned out, but I believe that there's learning that can take place from it. So here goes. This is the day I bought. Okay, I picked up a large position, 15,000 shares at 255. Let me say this, a large position for me. I believe that there was going to be a strong technical breakout that would probably take it into the 280s. And the reason I thought that is because of the price action. Now, in the previous blog post I had made, Throne of Lies, I discussed how ALZM was going to flush at some point, and we shouldn't be caught in that flush. Well, it did flush, and then I played what I thought was going to be the post-flush breakout. So here's the price action from my purchase on Wednesday. This is Thursday's candle. And here's exactly what happened. Let me do a brief background on technical analysis if you're new to trading. These candles represent the price action. Okay, this particular day where I bought, the top of the candle is the high for the day, right around 255. The bottom of the candle is the low for the day. And this line right here represents, on this particular trade, the open and the close. And you can see that up in the navigation bar there, open, close, 246, 246. Okay. So the high for this day was 260, the low was 205. So stock opens, it flushes. It proceeds to climb back up and actually breaks out past where it had opened. And at that point in time, that's when I believed we were working into a technical breakout, because it was also breaking ahead of the price action, the recent high from the previous day. So I picked up my position at 255 for that reason. All right, so if you're new to technical analysis, this candle right here, this represents the high, this represents the low, this represents the open, the bottom of the candle. And the reason the candle is green is because the close was higher than the open. In comparison to this candle here, this represents the open up in the 240 range, the top of the red line. This represents the close. All right, the little lines below it, the shadows, those represent the low and the high. So we open here, we get a little bit higher, but then it flushes, and that's what I got caught up in. Okay, so how did this all happen? Let's take a look at the 15-minute chart. These are 15-minute candles now, so they represent every 15 minutes worth of price action, and this is a 5-day chart. All right, so here's the flush, and remember I told you in that post called Throne of Lies, this was probably going to happen. This is a momentum play. This is a stock that has a campaign behind it, a promotion. We knew that. We traded the momentum, but we knew eventually there would probably be a flush. When people get worried, these tend to sell off quickly, and we saw that on the previous charts, K and KT, etc. So it flushes. This is Wednesday's price action. Look at that, flushes. First 15 minutes, boom, you know what I mean? Comes all the way down in the first 15 minutes. Now look what happens. Now I had an order in here at 220, but I got passed by, and I pulled the order on this dip. In hindsight, boy, that would have been nice if it got filled, because look what happened. I would have rode it from, you know, this dip all the way up to where I eventually bought it. But again, you know, hindsight's 2020. You can't be that type of trader that lives in hindsight and says, "Oh, I wish I would have. I wish I would have." You know, it's just not smart to be that type of person. You have to just look at what you did and move forward. All right, so it flushes. We knew this was coming. It turns back up. I put my order in here. I missed it. So I moved ALZM down on my watch list, and I moved on to other stocks. The rest of the day, it proceeds to climb. So now I'm starting to get interested, because if it can break where it opened, which was, you know, right here, if it can break that area, then there's a good chance that the stock is going to break out. So it does. Look at this bullish volume that comes in right here. See this? So the stock has volume here. You get this doji candle, all right, a little bit of bull bear struggle. That's right here. Look at the next 15 minutes. So now this stock moves up to the top of my watch list. All right, I'm hoping this is making sense to you, and I'm hoping you understand that I just don't throw money at a pick. So look at that bullish volume. It's already flushed once, so I'm feeling pretty confident it won't flush again anytime soon. And then boom, look at that next volume bar. So for 45 minutes, the volume starts to climb like crazy. In addition, we have this resistance right here. See this resistance from the last hour of trading? The previous day, around 250, it breaks through that resistance right there. Of course, here's where I bought at 255, because I believed this one was breaking out to 280. All right, and I'm not the only one that thought that. You can see the huge buying volume that was coming into the stock right here. Obviously, a lot of that represents my shares, but I believe, what is that, about 500,000, no, about 600,000 shares traded in that 15-minute block of time. You know, what did I say, 15,000 of which were mine? Okay, so another 575,000 shares in that block of time. A lot of people thought probably that this was going to break out. Unfortunately, it dips down to the close, and now I'm kind of handcuffed, you know, just hoping that it's going to dip a little on, you know, the next day, which was Thursday here, and then go back up, and obviously it didn't. So when Thursday rolls around, here's the first 15 minutes, and I'm feeling pretty good, but then it flushes. It moves so quickly before my stop loss, which I do manual stop losses, so I sell on the way down. I don't like to put a stop loss in because I'm watching them, and I like to adjust on the fly. But 99% of the time, I'm going to stop myself out if it hits my target. It flushes quick all the way down to 217. And I mean, I was completely caught off guard, and it's right in front of me. So anyways, I doubled down, because before I could pull the trigger, it was already bouncing off of 217. Before I could sell, it was already bouncing. So I picked up another 10,000 shares at 221, and obviously you know that. Immediately, I'm starting to feel like a hero, because it just explodes back up to 241. Actually, it gets as high as 243. Now, when I doubled down, I was sitting pretty. You need to understand, my average was 255 at 15,000 shares. The double down at 221 brought my average down to 241. So 255, 221. My new average was 241. I could have broke even right here. But, you know, again, I'm thinking that we're going to get that breakout. And it flushes, you know, within 45 minutes. At that point, it's too volatile for me. It's doing moves that I'm not comfortable with, and I cut my losses. So that's the breakdown on ALZM, you know, and hopefully you understand that this little run-up right here, this 45-minute run-up, led me to believe the stock was going to break out. I think you can see that with the price action, even if you're new to technical analysis. And for that reason and that reason alone, I jumped in at 255. The rest was just trading my butt off to try and make it work. And it didn't, and at some point you just got to give up, and that's what I did. Looks like ALZM is getting weaker today. Here's 30-day chart again. It's down around 214. Looks like it's been jumping around here. None of this really matters until it opens. But, you know, it could turn up, Could turn down. It's hard to say. And we'll see how it goes. All right, so that's the breakdown on the ALZM. But I want you to know that I'm human. And despite having won every single trade in the month of March, all that matters is the last trade. So, this one was a loser, and the next one I plan on making a winner. Take it easy, everybody. I hope you can learn something from this.